It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.
Okay, so this week we're actually going to be working on writing a persuasive letter. Now, just to let you know what you will need this week, obviously, you will need a few key items for this to be successful. The first thing you're going to need, obviously, is going to be a pen. You'll need a pen. We're doing a bit of writing today. You'll need some colors too, actually. So if you've got some colors, that would be lovely. I brought a whole collection of colors here you can see. I've got red and green and orange and purple, all those wonderful things. You will need a ruler. And if you've had a chance to print this document, which I put into the meeting, then it would be great if you've got this. But if you don't worry about it. We can come to it a little bit later on, not the stress. Okay. So before we begin, what we're obviously going to do, like we do every single week, is we're just going to be putting our title and making sure we know the keywords for this week. Okay, so the top of our paper, just like this, let's rule a line, just like this. And we're actually going to be talking about persuasive writing this week. So I'm just going to put that at the top, just like this. Now, Avaya, at any point during this lesson, if you want to just let me know if you're okay, you can just put your thumb up and let me know if I'm going too quickly or too slowly. So this week we're talking about persuasive writing, and particularly we're actually going to be talking all about trees this week. Now, before I start, what's really important is that when we actually discuss persuasive writing or persuading anybody to do anything, this is about using things like emotive language, passion and intonation, and having your body language ready so that you can persuade people that what you're actually saying, what you actually want to happen, you believe. We want them to understand how passionate we are. And this week, we're actually going to be talking all about trees. Now, I personally, I'm very passionate about trees. I'm a big fan of trees. I spend a lot of my time in the forest. And this week, I want to persuade you that trees are really, really important on Earth. And hopefully, you can persuade your school, your teachers, and even your parents that you're going to be organizing a tree appreciation day in your school. Okay, so the first things first, persuasive writing. Let's make sure we know exactly what we're going to be doing this week. And I'm just going to write down here something, LO. And what LO means, it means learning objective. So in your book, if you can just write down what I'm writing down, that'd be lovely. So this week, we're going to learn about persuading people using written language. So to persuade, people using written language. Now, this might be something that you'll have to do as you get older. Something that might happen in real life will be that, you might need to persuade someone to help you. You might need to persuade someone to come to your birthday party, or that to come on a fun run or run a marathon with you, or raise money for charity, or go on holiday. So these things are really, really important because they actually become real life when you get older. Recently, I lost some suitcases on a trip on a holiday, and I had insurance. I had to persuade the travel insurance company that I was being honest and I actually lost my luggage, and I wrote them a letter, and then they gave me the money back, which was wonderful. So this is exactly perfect. So we're going to have 4 keywords this week that we're going to use. So 4 bullet points down the side, just like this. This will help us understand that this week's subject matter is really important. And these keywords are words that we're going to be using this week. So it's extremely important. So our first word is emotions. So when we're persuading other people to do something, when we're persuading other people to believe in what we're trying to tell them, we must use our emotions. So what are emotions? Well, if we want to put emotions into very simple language, actually emotions are very simply feelings. So let's make sure that we have this down. I'm going to write this in pink so it's nice and bright. So we have to make sure that if we're actually using our emotions to persuade someone, then we're using our feelings. What do we love? What are we scared about? What do we fear? What are our desires? What are the things that we're passionate about? We have to use our feelings here. Number two, we have to be organized. If we're actually going to persuade them, we need all the ideas from our mind organized onto the paper. So we need to be organized. How do we describe organized in very simple language? Well, we need to make sure that we are in order. We have everything in the right order. We know where we're going to start, we know what happens next, and we know where we're going to finish. We've got everything ready in our mind and everything down on the paper, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to get everything organized. Number three. So this is the really, really important one, and this is punctuation. So punctuation is to do with spelling and your grammar and your sentences and your full stops and your capital letters. Our punctuation needs to be correct, because once we have our punctuation correct, then the person who's reading it can actually understand what we're talking about. Okay, so punctuation, in order to describe that in a very simple way, let's make sure that it is correct. And we'll put a big tick here like this, because ordinarily what we get is when we get something correct, we get a big tick next to it. So we need to make sure that we're checking it. We need to make sure we're reading it. Number four, and this is the most important one, that we are being factual. And what does factual mean? Factual means that we've got all the facts correct. We can't persuade people to do something if we don't know what we're talking about. We need to be right. We need to make sure we've done our research. Okay, so let's put that down. So this is where we have our research. If we've done our research correctly, then we'll have our facts nice and correct, which is wonderful. Okay, so they're the 4 words we're going to need this week. Really important words. Just make sure you've got those down. Avaya, if you're still there, that's wonderful. And I'll just put a line under here like this. But before I move on, what I'm going to do is just going to show you what we're going to be doing this week. I'm just going to flick my screen over to this screen. And so this week we're actually going to be talking about trees. And I've given trees the nickname the lungs of the earth, like this. And I call them the lungs of the earth for one very important reason. Trees produce lots and lots and lots of oxygen. They actually don't produce all the oxygen on the planet. They only produce half of the oxygen. The other half of the oxygen on the planet comes from somewhere else. I won't tell you where, but I'm sure you can find out. But we call them the lungs of the earth because they help the earth to breathe, and actually they help human beings to breathe, and we are human beings. So they're very helpful to us. So just under here, I'm going to put down the subheading, trees, like this. Wonderful. Okay, now this is a really creative part, this part. So I'm just going to flick my screen to the next screen. Hang on a second, like this. And ask you this question. Today we are going to organize a Tree Appreciation Day. That is what we're going to do. And the date will be the 27th of July, which is in 1 week's time. So you get a chance to actually organize this. Now, before you even start to think about organizing it, you have to understand what trees are about, number one. And number two, you have to know what the point of organizing a Tree Appreciation Day is. What's the need? What's the requirement? Okay, before we can begin, we need to actually know what trees are. So what I would like you to do in your book or on your piece of paper is I'm just actually going to go back to my original overhead camera here, and I'm going to rule a line right down the middle, just like this. Hopefully you can see that, and you can do the same. On the right hand side, I'm actually going to draw a tree. Just over here on this part, I'm going to draw a tree. I'll go back to my tree so you can see what it looks like. You can draw it just like mine. Remember, it's going to need all the things that you can see just there. So off you go. I'll give you just a couple of minutes to draw your tree. I will also draw my tree. Now take your time. Now you can see on the diagram there, you have certain aspects of your tree that need to be included. Let me flick you to my tree, although it's not a very good tree. Here's my tree. I'm just going to include a couple of things. So I'm just going to put the ground down here like this. There's a couple of things that you definitely are going to need this week. And underneath here, I want to put down these things. I'm sure you know what they are, but we'll come to that in just a second. Well, like so. All right. Now, earlier on, I told you might need a few colors, and the colors are very important. We're going to need them this week, obviously. On my tree, I'm going to draw a few different aspects. So I'm going to actually put some leaves on my tree, and we'll come to all of these things in just a minute. We'll go through what they all do. Now, we'll pretend it's spring, so I don't have to draw too many leaves here. My tree, I don't want to be here all day, but if you can put some leaves on your tree, that would be lovely. I'm actually going to put some fruit on my tree too. So I've got some fruit growing on my tree, just like this, and we'll talk about what fruit does in just a second. I know that you might think you know what it does, because you've probably eaten fruit before. Okay, so here we go. Now we've got our tree, and I'm sure everybody out there has seen a tree before. I don't dispute that. But the question that I'm going to ask you is, do you actually know how important trees are? So the first thing to say is, let's go through the different parts of a tree and start to understand what each and every one of these components does. I think that's really, really important. So we'll start with the leaves. And what we'll do, we'll just draw a little line going over like this, and I'll put a little arrow pointing directly, and I'm going to write the word leaves, just like this. So the leaves of a tree. Now, yes, leaves of a tree, do you know what they do? Because if you're going to persuade people that they need to take care of trees, they need to understand how important they are. So let's have a look. How important actually are these trees, and what do they do? What do trees actually do? When you look at trees, it looks like they're just doing nothing. But actually, they're very busy indeed. So we'll start off with leaves. So the first thing to say to you is that leaves absorb sunlight to produce energy for the tree. So as you see the tree with all of its leaves, what they're actually doing is they're capturing sunlight. They've got their hands out like this, and they're capturing all the sunlight, and they're actually using a process called photosynthesis, and they are producing their very own energy. It's amazing. But for you and me and animals and insects and birds, they also give us lots and lots of shade. Have you ever been outside on a very hot and sunny day and you walk under a tree and it's nice and cool? Well, trees cool the earth. How amazing is that? Not only do they absorb the sunlight, but they stop it hitting the ground, and therefore they make the earth nice and cool. Now, as you know, there are wildfires blazing all over Europe at the moment. It's 42 degrees in London. It's 41 degrees in Beijing. It's 40 degrees in Nairobi. It is hot all around the world. Trees are the natural way in which we can keep nice and cool, and they do that by these wonderful things we call leaves. Let's go back to our diagram. Now, the second thing that we're going to look at on our trees is this. We're going to have a look at these things. And these things right here, I'm sure you know the word, are called branches. Now, you've probably seen a branch before. They are like sticks. Sometimes they fall on the ground, but most of the time they're attached to the tree. But do you know what branches do? Do you know what their job is? Well, they actually have a lot of jobs, but they've got a really important job, and this is why we need to protect them. So the first thing is branches. Well, branches hold the tree together. They actually keep all the leaves together, and they make sure, like a little road or a delivery system or some pipes, they deliver all the nutrients to the leaves and all the nutrients from the leaves to the tree. But they move with the wind, and they are home to thousands of creatures. In fact, I can tell you right now that the average tree is a home to about 30,000 different creatures, from spiders to beetles to cockroaches to ants to birds and even koala bears and monkeys. These are a home to lots and lots of animals. So when you next time you look at a branch, don't just think it's just a branch doing nothing. That branch is like your house to another creature, and you would hate it if your house was to be removed, just like the ants would hate it if their house was to be removed also. Let's go back to my diagram right here. Now I put these red circles on my diagram. These are fruit. Now lots and lots of plants have fruit. But the question is why? Many of us think, well, trees make apples because they want to give us food. Well, we can eat them, but they're not just for us. And these are called fruits. And they grow on lots and lots of trees and lots of plants. But do you know what they actually do? Well, let's have a look. What do they do? So fruits. Fruits are the home of the seed of the tree, which is really, really cool. So inside an apple, if you've eaten an apple before, when you get to the middle, you'll find there's a seed in the middle, and you usually spit it into the bin. You don't want to eat that seed. But don't forget, that's actually the baby of the tree. And what happens is the tree grows the fruit, and the fruit is really tasty and yummy, so that birds will fly along, or monkeys, and they will eat the fruit. Yum, 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 yum. Really tasty. They will eat all the fruit. They will even eat the seed. And then they will fly away, or they'll swing through the trees, and they'll do a poo. They'll go to the toilet. And out comes the seed. It drops on the floor and starts to grow. So these fruits are not just food for human beings. These actually help the tree reproduce or have babies. Very, very important, of course, because without this, we would not have any trees around the world. They have to have a way to spread themselves out. How interesting. And this is why fruit is so sweet and tasty, so that lots of creatures come to eat it. The more creatures come to eat it, the further away their seeds become spread, and therefore we have lots and lots of trees growing all around the planet, which is exactly what we're talking about this week. Let's go back to my diagram. Actually looking really good. I'm liking my diagram a lot. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at this week is we're actually going to look at the roots. And the roots are down here underground. Really, really interesting. In fact, my favorite part of the roots, because the roots are the most interesting part of the tree, because it's recently been discovered that actually roots do something really, really special, which you may not have heard of before. So let's have a look what roots do right now. Here we go. So roots, the roots of the tree. So they help to absorb food for the plant, of course. They go into the ground, they get water, nutrients, and they suck them up and deliver them to the trunk and the leaves. But they also, and this is the most amazing bit, we're going to have a look at a video in just a second to explain this, they also allow the tree to talk to other trees. Now, obviously, they don't have a mouth. They can't have a conversation like, hello, how are you? How was your weekend? Oh, mine was pretty good. How about yours? They can't do that. But they can send messages. And you'll learn about this in just a second. But the roots can actually tell other trees what's happening. So if one tree is being attacked by lots and lots of insects, and all the leaves are being munched, and it's really, really destructive for the tree, one tree can send a message out to the other trees saying, hey guys, there's a load of locusts or insects coming our way. They're eating all my leaves. Get ready, because they're going to come and eat your leaves too. Make sure you release a chemical to drive them away. So these roots do amazing things. Not only do they actually help the tree feed, but they also help communicate with the trees. But most importantly, is they hold all the soil together. And you might have seen in the news sometimes there's a landslide, or there's where lots of land has fallen off the side of a mountain. It's caused a lot of destruction and a lot of pain to lots of people. Well, trees hold all of the ground together. They keep it all nice and solid, like a big hand holding it all together and keeping its claws into something. That's exactly what trees do, and they use their roots to do that. And the reason I'm telling you all of these things is because This is what we're going to use to persuade people that trees are so important. So we've got the roots. Now my diagram is looking pretty good. I'm just going to shade in my trunk and a bit of my branches like this to give it a bit more color. Really nice. All right, now we're looking good. So let's go to my final slide here on trees to persuade you. Okay, so trees help the world in so many ways. We simply cannot live without them, and they must be protected. We are going to have a Tree Appreciation Day for a reason. The reason we're having a Tree Appreciation Day is we want people to understand how important trees are. We don't want people to walk down the street and break off a branch. We don't want people to cut down trees in the local forest so they can build something. We don't want people to burn forests down in countries so that they can make lots of area for a new swimming pool. We want to protect trees because, as you've just found out, trees are really, really important to us human beings. We need them as well as every other animal and insect on the planet. And as you can see from the picture there, they're very, very beautiful to look at too. I love being in the forest where there's lots and lots of trees. It helps me feel very calm and very nice and peaceful. It's very quiet and it's wonderful. I suggest if you haven't been to a forest recently, you head there very soon and spend some time in the forest. Okay, so now we're going to watch a short video on trees. And when the video is finished, it takes about 6 minutes. We're going to come back and I'm going to help you plan and prepare your letter so that you can actually persuade your school to organize their very own Tree Appreciation Day. And it's going to be really interesting. We'll do the planning together. We'll work as a team. And that way, when we work as a team, we'll make sure that we understand exactly what we are going to do this week. Okay, so without further ado, let's go and have a look at the video that I'm about to show you. We'll watch it together. Here it is. And let's play. Okay, have a listen. This is me telling you all about trees and how important they are. Let's go.
Hello everybody, welcome to Gavin McCormack here, and today we're in the Colo River in the Deep Blue Mountains in New South Wales. And as you can see behind me, there is a tree, but not just any tree. You see, within forests we have societies, we have communities. And if you're not looking carefully, these communities within forests can be very hard to find. You may have walked through a forest and looked at the trees and thought that nothing was really happening. They were just standing there, tall and looking beautiful. Well, think again. Trees are very, very busy and extremely important. The first thing to note is that they breathe, because they are living things. They breathe just like me and you. But instead of breathing in oxygen, they actually breathe in carbon dioxide, which is extremely poisonous to human beings, and we produce lots of it. Not only from the breath of billions of people, but also from pollution caused by cars, motorbikes, aeroplanes, and factories. So we need trees to help keep the world balanced and cool, and to reduce the greenhouse gases that cause global warming. But what happens when many trees come together? Can they actually communicate? Well, for many, many years, human beings thought that we were the only people who could communicate. And then, through history, we discovered that also animals had the power to communicate. But recently, research has shown us that trees can actually talk to each other. This is what we call a mother tree. Now you may ask the question, what is a mother tree and how can I find one in my local forest? Well, a mother tree is usually the biggest and the oldest tree in the forest. They are the glue that holds the forest together. They have the genes and the history from previous climates and a long time ago, and they are the homes to so many creatures. They can hold up to 30,000 organisms living inside them. And what's special about a mother tree? Well, they have 4 special characteristics. And if you want to try to find one in your local forest, here are the things you may be looking for. Mother trees are usually the tallest and the widest tree around. They have the most branches. They can even have a few trunks. And they grow new leaves very, very quickly, and they're usually very, very big in size. But what you can see right behind me on this tree here is fungus or fungi, or you may know them as mushrooms. Now, the first thing to say is do not touch and do not eat. These can be highly toxic, but actually they are the forest's best friend. You see, trees may seem like the strong, silent type, but trees actually communicate with each other. If you're a mother and you have children, well, you recognize your children and you treat them in a certain way. And we're starting to find out that trees do the same thing. We found that trees, the biggest and the oldest in the forest, had more connections with other trees in and around the same location. So, when a seedling from one tree falls onto the ground, other trees will then take care of it by funneling resources. But how do they get the resources to each other and new seeds? Well, fungal networks are the answer. In an experiment published in 1997, we found out that water was moving between trees as they shared it, as the drought took hold of the forest region. And this shows us that trees act as a community. They take care of their neighbors, and they also take care of their young, just as human beings do. Right now, we are in summer and autumn is fast approaching. Now, the leaves on these trees around me will soon turn to a beautiful orange and yellow tone. And what will happen is the tree will start to send the nutrients from the leaves down the trunk and into the roots. And even some trees have been known to send those nutrients to other trees within the forest who need help. Now, how do they do that? Well, their best friend right here, fungus, helps them along the way. You see, as the nutrients come down the tree trunk here, the fungus is waiting to feed off of it. But it doesn't just take the nutrients, it actually helps the tree. You see, what happens is this tree here, via these wonderful roots in the ground, needs to communicate with other trees in the forest, and they will use the fungi here to help send messages and help distribute those important informations around the forest. Now, even though we respect and we know that trees are so important, there are still many things happening which are destroying our forests. About 200 years ago, 14% of the Earth's land was covered by forests, and today it is down to around about 6%. The loss of these forests is known as deforestation, and as the population of the world grows and the demand for wood and land increases, this is something which is extremely concerning. But it's not only deforestation which is the cause of threat to our trees. You see, there are many other dangers which face the trees of this world. There's also fires. Fires rage around the world on a yearly basis, burning down hundreds and thousands of hectares of forests. There are also diseases which can infect the forest, and there's animal damage. But one of the most interesting things comes from nature, and that is the threat from insects. Now, when a danger like this arises, you may think that the tree is defenseless, but think again, because the tree can send messages to other trees in the forest, warning them that there is a plague of insects on the way causing damage. if this forest was under attack, or this tree in particular, by a plague of locusts, then some trees have been known to send messages to other trees within the forest via the fungus here to warn them to get ready because there is a locust attack on the way. So if you ever thought that forests were just a bunch of plants growing away nicely, think again. This is a community, this is a civilization, and under the ground, within this soil right here, there is a bunch of telecommunication channels where the forests and the trees are communicating with each other. See you next week.
Okay, all right, everybody. Thank you for paying so much attention to that video. Now, the reason that we're looking at that video is for one very important reason, and it is because we want to understand how important trees are before we persuade our families that we are going to have a tree appreciation day. Okay, so let's get on what we were talking about previously. Now, welcome to Kamal and to Sindhu. Nice to have you here. Sorry you're a bit late. You missed the first part of the lesson, but everything has been recorded. Don't worry. So this week, we're actually going to be talking about persuading our families to have a tree appreciation day. And as we said earlier on, we're going to be having this tree appreciation day on the 27th of July. And I've listed that down just here. Now, for those people who have just arrived, we actually went through all the different parts of a tree. We went through the leaves, the branches, the fruits, the roots, and we talked about how important these aspects are. We then finished with some important facts about trees, and we watched a very, very short clip. But the next part that we're actually going to do is we're going to work on writing our letter. But we're not going to write the letter today. I'm actually going to just help you plan it. And what I want you to do is a follow-up is you're actually going to write it yourself. So what you can see on my desk right here is this is my letter writing planning document. Now you can use this at any time you want in the future. This helps you to put all your ideas on paper before you start writing. What I've got behind is actually just a piece of paper here that will help me to put my writing together and put my letter together. This week, we're going to be writing to either our teacher or our school principal or our parents. It's up to you who you write to. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to put our ideas down here. Remember, at the very, very beginning of this lesson today, we talked about our keywords. Take a look at this one here. This one is the most important, to be organized. And today we're going to get organized to write our letter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work with you now, and we're going to do this together. Now, if you don't have this document here that I'm showing you in front of me, if you haven't printed it, you can make one of your own. It's not a problem. You just need to draw yourself some rectangles on a piece of paper like this, and we can work this out. Okay, or you can do this later on. So what I'm going to do with you, I'm just going to work through this right now to make sure that you understand exactly how it is to prepare and plan your letter before you start. So the first thing is the introduction. Why am I writing to you? So the first thing is to say, what am I going to write to the person about? Well, I'm going to write to them to persuade them to hold a tree appreciation day. Okay. So this is just notes. I don't need to make this too neat. This is just my planning document. So I'm going to persuade you to help me organize a tree appreciation day. I'll put some quotation marks around that. So I'm going to write to them. And why am I writing this note down? Because on my actual document, I might write down something here which says, "Dear Mr. Johnson, my name is Gavin McCormack, and I am writing to you because I'm trying to organize a tree appreciation day, and I need your help." And that would be a really good way to start my letter. And this note here will help me do that. So let's not just write that down right now, first of all. So I'm just going to pretend I'm writing to a fictional principal, Mr. Johnson. So I'm just going to put "Dear Mr. Johnson." I'll put Mr. Jones. "Dear Mr. Jones." Put a comma here. I am writing to you because I need your help in organizing a tree, Appreciation Day. Full stop. Now, this is the opening part of my letter. The beginning of a letter must always tell them, why are you writing to them? When they open the letter, they need to find out immediately what it is that you are writing to them about. So, for example, yesterday I had a letter and I had a gas bill and I had to pay the gas bill, and I'd been away on holiday and I forgot to pay the gas bill. And I opened the letter and the first line said, "Dear Mr. McCormack, we are writing to you because you have forgotten to pay your gas bill." I immediately knew that this was an important letter, so I carried on reading. The first line must always tell the person receiving your letter, this is why I'm writing to you, because it's really important you get your message into their ears very, very quickly indeed. Okay, let's go back. So here come the important parts. Now, I've got these 4 boxes here, guys. So the things that you need to know, when I say you, I don't mean you, I mean them. The things that they need to know. So what do they need to know? Well, we need to know some important things about trees, don't we? So first of all, we only have 6% of the earth is covered in trees. First of all, give them a number, give them a statistic, give them a fact. What else do we need to know? Well, trees are important. They need to know how important they are, and now you know why. They provide shelter, they are homes, they make oxygen, they give us shade, they hold the soil together. All these things that we've talked about, that is what they do. What else do they need to know about trees? They need to know about trees that actually they are the basis of all life. So, what we need to do is get the point across, get the facts across. And the stronger the facts, the more interested they will be in reading this. So if you tell somebody, oh, by the way, the earth was once covered in 100% of trees and now it's 99%. They'll say, well, it's only 1%. Not to worry, I won't read anything. I'm not going to do anything with this. If you tell them that the earth was covered with 14% of the earth was covered in trees and now it's only 6%, they say, oh my God, 6%? That is so low. I am feeling worried about that and I want to take action. You are persuading them. And this week is all about using persuasive language. So the first thing is know your facts. And here are the facts that we've got. You also know some really other interesting facts from today's lesson. Let's go to the next part. Emotional language I will use. We talked about using emotions. Emotions are feelings. And these can be just words or phrases. So how can you get them across the line? How can you persuade them using some emotional language? What emotional language can we use? What feeling language can we use? So, emotional language I will use. I will use this, that it is urgent. This is a really good word, okay? Urgent. Because if it's urgent, it means that I have to do something right now, okay? Other emotional language, okay, that I might want to use, that I am passionate about this, okay? I am passionate about this. This is coming from my heart, okay? So I'm going to put this in. So I might say to my principal, I believe that this is an urgent matter. I am very passionate about trees because they are important for the whole of the world, okay? And I'm going to use this word, which is going to be compassion. I have compassion for my fellow human beings and organisms on this planet, and I want to make sure that I can save and help them. So these are the 3 really important emotive words I'm going to use. Now, what you can do to help. What can the person I'm writing do? Help. What can they do? So they could help. I'm writing to the principal. I'm writing to the my teacher in my class. What can they do to help me? So they could help by spreading the word. Now, spread the word basically means to help to tell other people, okay? They could help me organize. And they could help me advertise. So maybe my school principal wants to put it in the school newsletter. Maybe my teacher wants to help me make a poster, and maybe they want to tell other people around the place and get people involved. The more people helping, the bigger success my event will be. Now, what happens if we change? What will happen to the world if we change? Well, we'll have a cooler climate, won't we? We know the Earth is heating up. We can see it right now in the news. If you're watching it, there is fires raging everywhere, and trees are the solution, because we know now that trees keep the Earth nice and cool. We'll have a cooler climate. We will have more animals and insects. And we all want more animals and insects, and we will have a better life. And when I say a better life, I don't just mean for me or you, I mean for everybody. Now, a salutation at the end, this part is us saying goodbye. And it's really important at the end of your letter to say goodbye in a very polite and very thankful way, okay? So it might be something like, thank you so much for all of your help. I appreciate it greatly. And you put your name at the bottom. Yours, Gavin McCormack. And I won't write that down there. So now I've got what's called a plan. And the idea is to use this plan and turn it into an actual letter. And as you can see, what I'm doing is, here, I'm going to write one sentence and I'm going to tick this off. So this is done. I've told the person why I'm writing to them. The next paragraph, which would start here, I'll miss an entire line, would be this box. So I might start with something like, did you know? I might say, did you know that only 6% of the Earth is covered with trees? It used to be 14%. And do you know how important trees are? They're not only important for oxygen, they're important for the land and the soil and the roots. They can also communicate with each other, and they're the home to up to 30,000 species of creatures. Did you know that? That they are the bottom of the food chain and the basis for the entire existence of everything on the planet, including you. That might be my next paragraph here. And once I've written it, I will tick it off like this. When I get to this part here, this is where you write from your heart, and you might need a new piece of paper here. So you say something like, I believe it is an urgent matter that we need to deal with this problem of deforestation. I am passionate about this. I'm passionate about this subject, and I want to have compassion for everybody around the world. I need you to help me organize Tree Appreciation Day on the 27th of July. And I can tick them off as I use these words. That is another paragraph. The next paragraph that I might write is about asking them for their help. What I need you to do, Mr. Jones, is to help me spread the word. I would appreciate it if you could help me organize the event and even advertise it in the school newsletter. I would be very thankful indeed. That's my next paragraph. And my final paragraph is this one here. If you decide to help me, if you decide to help me organize this wonderful event, we will have a cooler climate, we'll have more animals, more insects, and a better life for every single organism that lives on this big blue ball that we call home. I hope you can help me. And I'll finish with my final paragraph. Thank you so much for all of your help, Mr. Jones. I appreciate your time greatly. I know how busy you are, and I really am thankful for all of your time. Yours, thankfully, Gavin McCormack. And what I will do, I will write all of this down on a piece of paper. I will fold it up, put it in an envelope, and I will put it under my principal's door, or I will put it in his pigeonhole or her pigeonhole and let them get it. And I will wait. I will then wait and wait and wait until they write back to me, or they give me a phone call, or they come to my classroom and they say, hey, by the way, I got your letter and it was amazing, and I really want to help you. Let's get started. And you know at that point that your letter has been a success. Now, today, we've been talking all about trees, as you know, but you can write a persuasive letter on anything. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It doesn't matter what you're discussing. If it's got purpose, if you feel in your heart and you are passionate about it, you can use this exact same process to write to anybody about anything. You could write to the Prime Minister. You could write to the Queen. You could write to Elon Musk. You could say, "Dear Mr. Musk, I'm writing to you because I would like to come on one of your rockets to Mars. I think it's very important that I look at Mars because I am," and you can persuade him. And maybe he will say, "Hey, I got your letter, by the way, and I'm inviting you onto my rocket to come to Mars. I don't want to go to Mars, I'm too scared, but you might want to go to Mars." So you can use this template, you can use this letterhead, you can use this format right here to plan your letter first and then to transcribe it onto an actual piece of paper. But remember, before you begin anything, you must know your facts. You must know what you're talking about. And that's why this part and this part here, which is all about research, is extremely important. You are not going to persuade anybody to do anything unless you know exactly what it is that you are talking about. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for coming along this week. If you missed the beginning of this video, don't worry, it's all recorded, and you can find it on our website under live events, which just go to learn and scroll down. You will find the replays just under there, and you will find it there very, very shortly indeed. Thank you so much for coming along, everyone. And don't forget, next week we have another live lesson on Wednesday. I would like you to invite your friends. I would like you to invite your teachers, your family, anybody who wants to come to school next week. Next week at exactly the same time, 2 p.m. AEST here in Australia, we are going to be doing an amazing lesson on designing a poster to change the world, and we're going to design it together. You're going to do exactly the same as me. We're going to change the world together next week. We want to have a maximum attendance next week. We want to have at least 20,000 people coming along. So hopefully you will be in attendance. All right, thank you everybody for coming this week. We'll see you next week for another live lesson. Good luck with the learning, and I hope you're enjoying Be the Change, which is actually on right now. So, okay, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye.
It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.